Previous class we had studied about the cirrhosis of liver, in which the primary pathology was in liver itself, and there were the specific changes which took place in the liver, and we called it cirrhosis of the liver. But there are some other types of cirrhosis of liver also, but their primary pathology lies somewhere else, and due to that primary pathology outside of the liver, there are changes in the liver which is just similar to the cirrhotic changes of liver. In that we had already discussed you about the biliary cirrhosis, pigment cirrhosis, cirrhosis in Wilson's disease, cirrhosis due to alpha trypsin antitrypsin deficiency, cardiac cirrhosis, and Indian childhood cirrhosis. After that we will know something about the infections and infestations which affect the liver because of the bacteria, fungi, and parasites. Among them, the pyogenic bacteria which causes cholangitis, that it is inflammation of the extrahepatic and intrahepatic biliary ducts, which is of two types, pyogenic and primary sclerosing, which is of autoimmune nature. So first of all, there is a obstruction to major extrahepatic duct by impacted gallstone, carcinoma head of the pancreas, and acute pancreatitis. And after obstruction, the bacteria gains entry into it, and there is a infection spreads, what we call ascending cholangitis, which gradually passes on to liver and causing amoebic hepatitis, followed by pyogenic liver abscess. But because of the use of widespread and newer antibiotics these days, this pyogenic liver abscess is not seen as it was before. So similarly, we should know about the amoebic liver abscess. The abscess in the liver is caused by the protozoal parasite Entamoeba histolytica, which was very common few years back, that the tropozoite formed from the intestine reaches to the small intrahepatic portal radicals, and there these tropozoites block the arterial supply to the hepatic cells, causing infarction and then necrosis, which leads to liver abscess. But still, because of the use of newer antibiotic and wide spectrum antibiotic, this amoebic liver abscess is not encountered in the hospital wards. As a result of miliary dissemination from the primary complex or from chronic adult pulmonary tuberculosis, we also used to find hepatic tuberculosis previously, but nowadays these are the rare things. One parasite is very common in the causing hydatid disease of liver, that is caused by the tapeworm Echinococcus granulosus. This hydatid disease of the liver is as a result of larval cystic stage of the tapeworm that gets the ova in the man, gets entry into the intestine, and from where it goes to the liver by the portal venous system, where it is these ovas of Echinococcus granulosus gets trapped in the sinusoids, and there it develops into a cystic form, what we call hydatid cyst. And from there sometimes it also passes from the liver and reaches to the lungs, where it also produces symptoms of hydatid cyst. Sometimes from the lung, through the systematic circulation, it reaches to the brain, where it lodges and produces as a space occupying lesion in the brain. And because of the pressure on the adjoining nerve cells, it starts producing neurological symptom, which is a very grave situation. So this hydatid disease affects the liver, lungs and brain. But if its size is up to 10 millimeter in size, then there are no complication. But when it gets ruptured, then it produces the symptom allergic symptoms, what we call hydrated allergy. It can rupture into peritoneal cavity, in bile ducts or in lungs. Because of the sensitization by the hydrated sand present in the hydrated fluid in the hydrated cyst causes this peripheral blood eosinophilia, and on X-ray examination it can be found out. Besides that, Cassini skin test also signifies this infection. So this hydrated cyst is of importance. After that, we will switch over to the hepatic tumors and tumor-like lesions. Tumors, it is a new growth. It is a mass of tissue formed as a result of abnormal, excessive, uncontrolled, autonomic, purposeless proliferation of cells even after the cessation of the stimuli. So this is the new growth, which can be very slow growing without harming, what we call benign growth, or when these growths are very rapid, ultimately leading to the death, is called malignant tumors. So benign tumors of the liver, they are the adenoma from the hepatic cells, and its counterpart malignant tumor is benign tumor is adenoma from the hepatic cells, and its counterpart in the liver is called hepatoma or hepatocellular carcinoma, HCC. Similarly, from bile duct, the benign lesion is cholangioma, and its counter malignant tumor is the cholangiocarcinoma. From mesodermal tissues, the benign lesions are hemangioma, and its counterpart, the malignant lesion, is angiosarcoma or embryonal sarcoma. That is embryonal sarcoma, that is undifferentiated, don't look like any kind of matured liver cells or specialized cells. Embryoma, because the cancer grows from the cells early in the fetal life. Sarcoma, because it derives from the connective tissue. So that is called embryonal sarcoma from mesodermal malignant tumor. Hepatocellular carcinoma or hepatoma. 85% of all primary malignant tumor of the liver belongs to this category, that is hepatoma, and 5 to 10% cholangiocarcinoma. Others are hepatoblastoma, embryonal sarcoma. It is very closely related to hepatitis B virus and hepatitis C viral infection, which causes viral hepatitis. So males suffer more than females, and peak incidence is 5th or 6th decade of life. Tumor is also found in 60 to 70% of patients of liver cirrhosis. So prolonged infection with hepatitis B infection in the liver, because hepatitis B surface antigen positive have 200 times greater incidence than hepatitis B surface antigen negative patients. That means the hepatitis B infection, the chronic hepatitis in which this hepatocellular carcinoma is common. 95% of these hepatocellular carcinoma have anti-HBe antibody, and hepatitis B virus DNA genome matches with the genome of hepatic cell carcinoma tumor cells. If there is a hepatitis C viral infection producing viral hepatitis, then after more than 30 years of infection, it can also lead to cirrhosis and then to hepatocellular carcinoma. The cirrhosis is of macronodular post-necrotic type of cirrhosis, because in them the chronic regenerative activity in cirrhosis. The damaged liver cells are very vulnerable to carcinogenic influence. So, liver cell dysplasia is seen in 60% of cirrhosis with hepatocellular carcinoma, and this liver cell dysplasia only 10% is seen in non-cirrhotic hepatocellular carcinoma. So, there is an enlargement of liver cells, there is a hyperchromatism of the nucleus, there is a multinucleated cells. So, relation with alcohol, it acts as a co-carcinogen with hepatitis B virus. Besides this, fungal infection, mycotoxins, alpha toxin B1 by molds, Aspergillus flavus, they are also prone to develop this hepatic cell carcinoma. So, then pathogenesis of hepatic cell carcinoma, there is a genetic mutation by the etiological factors, and it inactivates the tumor suppressor oncogenes at P53 by hepatitis B virus, and there is a disruption of normal growth pattern. Morphologically, there are three patterns of growth: expanding type, single yellow large mass mostly in right lobe of the liver with central necrosis, hemorrhage and bile stain. May be single or may be multifocal, that is multiple mass 3 to 5 centimeter in diameter and scattered throughout the liver. Infiltrating type, which is very rare, and microscopically when it is examined, then there is a typical hepatocytes from well differentiated hepatocytes to highly anaplastic type of cells can be seen, and the pattern is trabecular growth pattern along the blood vessels, 2 to 8 cell thickness separated by this vascular spaces. Sometimes there may be acinar pattern, pseudo-glandular acinar pattern, Scaurus pattern in which there is a excessive or abundance of fibrous stroma. Cytological features: hepatocytes having vesicular nuclei with prominent nucleoli, granular cytoplasm which are to start with eosinophilic, but as the malignancy increases it becomes basophilic in nature. Pleomorphic and bizarre giant cell formation is there, spread by intrahepatic inside the liver by hematogenous spread, and extrahepatic by the hepatic portal vein to lungs and bones, and lymphatics to regional lymph nodes. Cause of death: the patient becomes emaciated and cachectic, massive bleeding from the varices, and there is a hepatic failure. Patient passes into hepatic coma. Then one rare malignant tumor that is called hepatoblastoma, that is embryoma. It is a rare malignant tumor arising from the primitive hepatic parenchyma cells. It presents before 2 years. In boys it is much more. There is a progressive abdominal distension, and the boy is failure to thrive. There is a fever and jaundice. Death is because rapid progression of the tumor by hemorrhage and hepatic failure. Morphologically, there is a circumscribed lobulated mass of the size 5 to 25 centimeter in diameter. Area of cystic degeneration, hemorrhage and necrosis is there. Microscopically, it has got two components: epithelial component and mesenchymal component. Epithelial component, again two types: embryonal hepatocytes, which are very small, dark and stained hyperchromatic nuclei with scanty cytoplasm. But there may be fetal hepatocytes also, which are large, having more cytoplasm, and mesenchymal origin tissues are fibrous connective tissue with cartilage and osteoid also. Besides this primary tumors, there are secondary hepatic tumors, or these metastatic tumors in liver. That means the primary site of the tumor is somewhere else in the body, in the abdomen, and from there the cancer cells has metastasized in liver. So it is called secondary hepatic tumors. These secondary hepatic tumors are more common than the primary tumors which we have discussed just now. There is a blood-borne metastasis from the stomach, breast, lungs, colon and pancreas. Sarcomas rarely metastasizes. So the patient presents with the hepatomegaly with nodular free margin, and later on there is a liver dysfunction. Morphologically, there are multiple spherical nodular mass which varies in size. Liver enlarges up to 5 kg. Surface of liver very characteristic. Umbilication is there in the nodules because there is a central necrosis in the nodular mass. Histologically, metastatic tumors reproduce the structure of primary lesion, not of the liver, because the secondary tumors always represent the structure of primary lesion from where the cancer cells have metastasizes to liver. So this finishes our whole of the liver chapter. There is a short reading about the gallbladder. So gallbladder, you know that it is a pear-shaped 9 cm long. It is has the capacity to 50 ml to store. It has fundus, body and neck. After neck there is a cystic duct which is joined by the left and right hepatic duct to form common bile duct. This common bile duct is again joined by the pancreatic duct when it reaches to open into the second part of the duodenum. So the function of gallbladder is to store and concentrate the bile secreted by the liver. Liver secretes 500 ml of bile per day, of which 5 to 10 times are concentrated, and they are stored in the gallbladder for to help the digestive process in the body. So the motility, concentration, contraction and relaxation of gallbladder to discharge bile is under the influence of a hormone cholecystokinin, which are secreted from the neuroendocrinal cells of duodenum and jejunum. It has the role in the function in the formation of gallstone. So the gallstone or cholelithiasis, this disease that the stones are formed in the gallbladder is called cholelithiasis. It is formed from the constituents of the bile, cholesterol, bile pigments and calcium salts, and it is always formed in gallbladder and also in extrahepatic passage. The old saying of fatty females who are fertile or at the age of 40, they are 4F, fat female fertile 40, no longer is in practice these days, because the boys and girls, even at the age of 5 or 10 years or 20 years, they get these gallstones very frequently because the nature of the diet they are taking at present. So geographically it is everywhere, and genetically it has got increased frequency in first degree relatives, and whenever there is a more of cholesterol in the diet, and when there is a mutation in a specific gene, that is CYP7A1 gene, that causes deficiency of cholesterol 7 hydroxylase enzyme, which has got role in bile synthesis and causes hypercholesteremia. Whenever there is hypercholesteremia, that means cholesterol percentage is more in bile, then the gallstone formation is there. So with the advancing age, after 40 years, it is much more prevalent, and in the females it is much more found because of the estrogen hormone, or that women take birth control pills. The estrogen has the cholestatic effect, therefore the gallstone formation is more common in women. Again, in obesity, because in the obesity there is a increased cholesterol synthesis, and whenever the diet which is deficient of fibers, then there are more chances of this gallstone formation is there. And sometimes gastrointestinal diseases, whenever there is an interruption in intrahepatic circulation by celiac sprue, celiac diseases, Crohn's diseases, in that cases this gallstone formation is most likely to be. Factors in pigment gallstone formation: whenever there is hemolytic anemia, there is an increased load content of unconjugated bilirubin in the bile, which is the cause for the pigment stone formation. So this stone formation or lithogenesis is because of so many factors for cholesterol, mixed and biliary sludge. So there are three types of gallstones. Just I will tell you for them. Whenever there is much of cholesterol in bile, then there is most likelihood to be formation of gallstone. So cholesterol is insoluble in water, but it becomes soluble with another lipid, called phospholipid, and the two together is secreted as a bilayered vesicles in bile, and where the bile acids is added to this bilayered vesicles, and it is now called mixed micellus in bile, and that is excreted out. But whenever there is excess of cholesterol, then these unstable cholesterol vesicles, rich vesicles, remains behind, and these unstable cholesterol rich vesicles aggregates at a place and forms the cholesterol crystal. So this cholesterol crystal in the mucin gel layer of the gallbladder, there when comes, then there is addition of mucin and non-mucin glycoprotein which are secreted by the gallbladder, and there is a addition and precipitation of more of crystals called cholesterol stone and forms the cholesterol stone, and the process is called cholesterol nucleation. So this excess of cholesterol is because of the reduced bile acid pool. There is a rapid loss of bile acid into the intestine, so there are no bile acids which can be mixed in the bilayered vesicles as a mixed vesicles, and the cholesterol vesicles remains behind, and sometimes there is supersaturation of the bile because the more of the cholesterol by the diets have reached, and there is a mutation in MDR3 genes causes defective phospholipid secretion. So all these factors causes this cholesterol nucleation, and cholesterol crystals are formed which aggregates to form cholesterol stone. Besides this, gallbladder hypomotility, cholecystokinin which was releasing from time to time from the intestine, which impedes the secretions in the gallbladder and avoids sludge formation. But whenever there is a defective in this cholecystokinin, then there is a gallbladder hypomotility, and then there is a gallstone formation. So there are three types of gallstones: pure gallstone, which constitutes 10%, mixed gallstone, which constitutes 80%, and the majority of the gallstones belong to this group, mixed gallstones. And again, there is a 10% of combined gallstone. So pure gallstones, either because of pure cholesterol gallstones or pure pigment stones are there. So this pure cholesterol gallstones, they are solitary, oval, large, 3 centimeter or more. Surface is hard, smooth, whitish and glistening. When it is cut, on cut section there is a radiating glistening crystals. So this is the pure gallstone of the cholesterol type, which is always single, oval. Next, pure pigment stone. It is because of excess of bile pigments, and added to it are the calcium carbonate, and cholesterol is also there, but it is less than 10-20%. These are always in great number, multiple, jet black. It is a small, less than 1 centimeter, mulberry like. It is very soft and brittle. It is always asymptomatic. So this pure pigment stones, they never produce any symptoms. Now mixed gallstones, which constitutes about 80% of the gallstones found in the patients, they have got more than 50% of cholesterol, and the remaining 50% is from the calcium salt, bile pigment and fatty acids. They are always again multiple, but they are multifaceted. That means they have so many surfaces which fits in the different mixed stones fit into each other exactly. It is called multifaceted, and size is from 1 centimeter to more than 1 centimeter. On cut section there is a laminated structure, alternate dark pigment layer and followed by pale white layer, which shows layering of the stones at the different type. That means first there is a cholesterol deposition, and above that there is a deposition of calcium salt, bile pigment and fatty acids at the different time. So that is the mixed gallstone, which constitutes about 80% and most common gallstones found. And then there is a combined gallstones, which constitutes about 10%. It is large and it has got very smooth surface. It has got inner cell of pure gallstone. Pure gallstone may be pure cholesterol, pure pigment stone, and outer cell of mixed gallstone, or it may be vice versa. That means the inner cell is of mixed gallstones and the outer cell may be of pure gallstone, which may be of pure cholesterol type or pure pigment type. So whatever stone is there, only the pigment stone is asymptomatic. So clinically features that the 50% of all gallstones remains asymptomatic for lifelong. They don't produce any symptoms. It is diagnosed by the chance by the surgeons when he opens the abdomen, and the surgeons prefer to do cholecystectomy because it can produce symptoms later on in any period of the life. Therefore, this cholecystectomy is done right at this time when there is no symptom by the gallstones. Only 10% of the gallstones produces symptoms, and these symptoms occurs only when there is a complications of gallstones. So gallstone does not produce any symptom. Symptom, if produced, it is because of the complications that it causes cholecystitis. that is the inflammation in the gallbladder, and it is and the patient comes with a biliary colic, very bad abdominal pain which is precipitated by fatty meal, and it presents with nausea, vomiting, fever, and leukocytosis is there, and serum bilirubin is also increased. So this is the cholecystitis which it represents, and but whichever is first, whether the inflammation of the gallbladder is first or whether the gallstone was the first in the patient, that is very difficult to say, that because the two is very interchangeable. That is, the inflammation of gallbladder can lead to the formation of the gallstone, or if there is a gallstone, then it can produce this cholecystitis, inflammation in the gallbladder. Then sometimes these stones passes into extrahepatic biliary passage, and there it produces pain and with obstructive jaundice. The condition is called choledocholithiasis, and sometimes there is a distension of gallbladder by clear mucinous secretion from the impacted stone in the neck of gallbladder, what we call mucocele or hydrops of gallbladder. So the next complication of this gallstone is the biliary fistula. Very long time persistence of this gallstone can cause fistulous tract between the gallbladder and the bowel. Sometimes these stones from the gallbladder can enter into the intestine and can produce gallbladder ileus. And lastly, this gallbladder stone can cause the cancerous changes in the gallbladder. So this is all about the gallstones which may produce the cholecystitis. A cholecystitis is the inflammation of the gallbladder which may be acute, that is a surgical emergency, or chronic, which is much more common. And sometimes this cholecystitis is acute on chronic. That means chronic cholecystitis is there upon that whenever there is a secondary infection, or because of this secondary infection there is an acute attack of biliary colic, so it is called acute on chronic cholecystitis. So acute cholecystitis is very similar to the acute appendicitis. It begins with the obstruction followed by the infection. So on the basis of the mechanism to start with, there are two types: acute calculous cholecystitis, which constitutes 90% of the this cholecystitis, whereas acute non-calculous cholecystitis, which constitutes 10%. It is not by the gallstones, whereas acute calculous cholecystitis is because the obstruction by the gallstones in the gallbladder or in the cystic duct or the Hartmann's pouch, that is the outpouching of the gallbladder between the cystic duct and the neck of the gallbladder. This obstruction leads to distension in the gallbladder, and then there is a inflammation due to chemical irritation, and this inflammation is secondarily infected with the bacteria, which is called secondary bacterial inflammation by Escherichia coli and Streptococcus faecalis. And morphologically, the two types of cholecystitis, calculus or non-calculus, is the same. Gross examination, the gallbladder is distended, serous layer becomes coated with fibrinous exudate, lumen is filled with the pus, and green bile, what we call empyema of gallbladder. If the time passes, microscopically wall of gallbladders becomes inflammatory edema, congestion, and neutrophils. There may be gangrenous necrosis. That means there anaerobic bacteria may infect it and leading to gangrenous necrosis, rupture in peritoneal cavity, which may lead to peritonitis. So clinical features: severe pain in upper abdomen, and there one can palpate the gallbladder lump, and there is a leukocytosis with neutrophil. It is an emergency treatment. It can be done with medical, but it can resolve, but chances of recurrence is very much. Therefore, surgery is also the last measure. Chronic cholecystitis, it is the commonest type of clinical gallbladder disease, because majority of the patients will come to you with chronic cholecystitis. It is always associated with cholelithiasis. So which one is the first? Still it is very difficult to say that whether gallstone has gradually led to the chronic cholecystitis or chronic cholecystitis has led to the formation of gallstone. So repeated attacks of acute cholecystitis also results into chronic state. The morphologically gallbladder is contracted, but depending upon the stage it may be normal or enlarged. Wall is thickened. On curved section, that is a white because of fibrous and calcification. Lumen contains mixed stone, and histologically thickened and congested mucosa are totally destroyed. There is a penetration of mucosal layer deep into the wall up to the muscular layer, which creates Rokitansky's Escoff nodules. Chronic inflammatory cells are also there, lymphocytes, plasma, and variable degree of fibrosis. So variations of chronic cholecystitis is cholecystitis glandularis, when crypts of the epithelium, there is a crypts in the epithelium of wall of the gallbladder. Porcelain gallbladder, that is calcified wall of gallbladder, cracks like an eggshell, abdominal distension with epigastric discomfort after the fatty meal is there. So carcinoma of gallbladder, primary, it is more common. It causes by cholelithiasis in 75% of cases. Fundus and neck is the most common type. Morphological type is infiltrating type, diffuse thickening and indurated area, fungating cauliflower-like growth. Histologically, it is adenocarcinoma. In 90% of cases, it is slow growing, hence symptoms are very late: jaundice, anorexia, palpable mass, or metastasizes to the neighboring structure. So this finishes the gallbladder also, that you can remember the different types of gallstones, their differences, because in exams you can be asked to identify which type of gallstones are there. Thank you.